What's up, guys? Welcome back to Hold the Phone. I am your host, Alex, joined by my host, Ryan. What's going on, Ryan?
Not sleeping. No, it's everything's good. And if you guys are new, we gained a lot of new followers this week. If you guys are new, if it sounds like I'm over the phone, that's because I am. I'm in Virginia. Alex is in North Carolina, so we do some long distance podcasting. So if you're new, welcome to the show. We'd love to have you. Stick around.
Yes. We do love to have you. So, this is basically our draft recap episode, our hot takes, and who had the best and worst draft. So, I guess we can start with the very first pick of the draft, which, as expected, the Arizona Cardinals took Kyler Murray, number one overall. Do you have any extra thoughts?
I like the move. I've been saying this that Cliff Kingsbury should take his guy. I mean, you saw how short of a leash Steve Wilkes was on. So I mean, I don't really like the management of the Cardinals. I don't like that they fired Steve Wilkes after only 1 year. But if Cliff Kingsbury is going to be on the same kind of leash, I'd say just go get your guy. I liked it. I thought they did pretty well with the Rosen trade. I mean, that's all I can really say. I think Kyler Murray is a really good player. I don't know if he'll be the best back in the draft, but
okay.
we'll
So I have a bit of a counter to that. I think I love the pick. I love Kyler Murray. I think he's going to be great. I literally hate how they handled the Josh Rosen thing. I don't understand why we waited until day two. If you're going to draft Murray, you should have traded Rosen before the draft or on draft night. Especially if all you're going to get is a two. Why wouldn't you get a higher two? Because I'm sure someone would have given you, like maybe Denver would have given you their second round for Josh Rosen, but I don't know.
I think it might have been more along the lines of like, I think Miami was kind of playing the waiting game, seeing if Drew Lock would fall to them or not. And obviously, if he didn't, he went to the Denver Broncos. So we'll talk about that later. But I think a lot of it went into whether or not teams thought that they could land that second round QB. So I think once Miami kind of lost out on Lock, I think that's when they kind of, no pun intended, locked in.
That's true. With the second pick, no real surprise here. The San Francisco 49ers took Nick Bosa from Ohio State, defensive end. Kind of expected it. A lot of people say he's either the first or second best pick in the draft. Bolsters that 49er front four, especially with D Ford on the other side. And a lot of people think he's going to be as good as his brother or better in Joey Bosa. So, I don't know. Love the pick for them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. More importantly, I like the fact that they got him and didn't trade Solomon Thomas, because I know there was talks about that before the draft. I like that and they still might do it, but I like the fact that they have that solid defensive line. I really like the 49ers this year. They're going to be really scary.
Yeah, I think so too. One thing I would say is I think I've heard rumors that they're going to move Solomon Thomas to the inside and have D Ford on one side, Nick Bosa on Nick Bosa on the other, and then Solomon Thomas as a DT.
I think that would be a great move, honestly.
Yeah, me too. Third pick again, kind of no surprise here. Well, I guess a little bit of surprise. Some people thought the Jets might trade out of that pick, but they take Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle from Alabama, who a lot of people think is actually the best player in the whole draft. And so, I mean, to get him at 3 is kind of a steal. Adds to that already up and coming defense that the Jets are trying to form out there in New York.
Yeah, I really like the pick. I don't think they could have passed on him. They really need help at defensive tackle. I think that's exactly what they're going to get. He's a great player. He's really young. I like it.
Yeah. Then the first shocker of the first round, I guess. Pick 4, the Raiders take Clelin Ferrell, defensive end from Clemson. What are your thoughts, man?
I think that's a textbook reach by John Gruden and Mike Mayock. I like Clelin Ferrell. Cleveland Kellen, whatever you say his name. I like Ferrell a lot. I think he's a first-round pick. I think he's a very talented player. But I think because of these expectations that they put on him by selecting him with the 4th overall pick, he might turn into kind of a bust in Raiders fans' eyes because he's not performing at that top level. I think they definitely could have traded down for this, and that definitely would have benefited them in the long haul. Honestly, well, actually, no. I want to take that back. I don't think that he would have been there at their 24th pick where they took Josh Jacobs, but I do think they could have traded back into the late team to take Farrell.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was better talent options. I know a lot of the reason that they took him was character. They think he can be a leader of a defense. I mean, I don't think he's going to be like an all-pro defensive end, but I think he could be a solid starter for years to come. But he's definitely no like Khalil Mack, Von Miller, somebody like that.
Oh, yeah.
With the fifth pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took linebacker Devin White from LSU. Filled a need. I think in all of our mock drafts we had him going there. They just really needed it. He's a leader. He's fast as hell. And I love the pick for Tampa.
I do too, but before I get into that, I just want to say screw Roger Goodell because he really ruined that Tampa Bay fans Make-A-Wish by clearly. I just sent out a tweet about this earlier. He blatantly made sure it was super clear that he was a Make-A-Wish kid, which is not the whole point of why he's on stage. He's on stage to live out his dream, not to be dehumanized because he has a disease.
Yeah.
So I just screw you, Roger Goodell.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, what the hell? We don't need to announce that he's from Make-A-Wish. Just say, hey, this kid's announcing.
Yeah, we all understand. We don't need you to explain it to us. We understand the situation. But anyways, yeah, screw Roger Goodell. But good on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got their guy. I think he's going to be a great defensive leader. I think he can honestly be, besides Lavonte David, a big focal point in that defense. So I like that a lot.
And then with the sixth pick, the New York Giants select quarterback Daniel Jones from Duke. Kind of shocked everyone. Let me hear your thoughts before I give you mine.
Man, I was surprised. Yeah, it was a big shock, but if that's their guy, that's their guy. I think I don't know where to put. I think Daniel Jones could be a solid backup for years to come. I don't know if he'll ever be a true starter, but I could be wrong. I don't know, but I like their confidence. I guess that's what I'll say. I like their confidence.
Okay, here, ready for my first hot take of the day?
Oh no, yeah.
All right, I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be like a Hall of Famer or anything, but I think he could be somebody like Matt Ryan. I went back yesterday and watched him play Clemson. I rewatched that game, or most of it. And most people thought Clemson was the best defense in all of football last year. And he was under pressure probably 80% of the game. He was running for his life because, again, Duke doesn't really have any stars, so you can't really expect that much from him. And those wide receivers dropped a ton of passes. He's very mobile. I do think they reached for him at 6. I think they definitely could have gotten him at 17. But I think if he's like you said, if he's your guy, go get him. And you better hope he works out. But I think if he gets to sit behind Eli for at least half the season, and with Saquon there, I think he could potentially be a decent starter. And if not, then you suck, and you hope that you get Trevor Lawrence in 2 years.
I like the take, honestly, and I like the fact that you brought up the Clemson game because a lot of people point out that the college game doesn't really always translate over to the NFL game. And for those people saying that, I'd just like to point out that defense that was chasing him down had 3 first-round picks in there, like Clelin Ferrell or Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins. So, although it's only college, that was a pretty good simulation of what the NFL is going to be like in terms of opposing defensive lines. So I like that you referenced that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I think he could be a Matt Ryan type, but then again, I think he could also be somebody like Paxton Lynch. So who knows? With the 7th overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars took Josh Allen, outside linebacker from Kentucky. I'll make mine quick. They went best player available, it seems, and just bolsters that defensive line even more. It looks like the Jaguars are sticking to what they know, which is defense. We'll worry about scoring the ball later. And he's a crazy pass rusher, so I love the pick.
I agree. I think I would go so far as to say that this is the first draft steal of this draft. I think they got a complete steal in almost every mock draft. Josh Allen was going top 5. So the fact that they got him at 7 without having to trade up was an absolute steal. I love the pick. Josh Allen's a fantastic player.
Yeah, and then at 8, the Detroit Lions select T.J. Hawkinson, tight end from Iowa. I don't really have a lot to say. I don't really know a whole lot about him other than that he is more of the blocking tight end from Iowa and Noah Fant was more of the receiving. But other than that, I don't really know a whole lot. What about you?
Well, Hawkinson was a good pick. I thought they could have gone in a lot of different directions, but I think they did a lot of the strategy that most of the other teams in the first round have so far in taking the best player on the board. I think out of all the people left, Hawkinson could have helped them the most in terms of their scheme fit. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife in terms of tight end duties. He can do everything. He can block. He can run routes efficiently, and I don't know. It's kind of a meh kind of pick, but I mean they got a really good player. So yeah, not a whole lot to say on that.
Yeah. With the 9 pick, the Buffalo Bills select defensive tackle Ed Oliver. I'm gonna let you take this one away because I know you're in love with him. So you go ahead and tell me how you feel about it.
Man, I love this pick. And as much as I hated the Cleveland Farrell pick, the Oakland Raiders helped us get Ed Oliver. So thank you, John Gruden. Ed Oliver is the perfect fit. He is essentially filling our biggest need in terms of our roster and filling the hole that Kyle Williams left when he retired a few months ago. They both play 3 techniques, so he'll be a perfect fit. And I'm just ecstatic about Ed Oliver moving forward. I can't wait to see him put Brady, Rosen, and Donald on the ground. 2 times a year.
I'm excited for you. Here's what I think is honestly the steal of the first round, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe they traded with the Denver Broncos to move up to 10 and select linebacker Devin Bush from Michigan, who's basically Ryan Shazier but younger and not injured. So they found the heir apparent for him. And also, tons of reports were coming out that the Bengals actually really wanted Devin Bush, and they snuck in front and stole him away from a division rival.
Interesting. I didn't know that about Cincinnati, but yeah, I thought it was a great pick. I'd be interested to see if Shazier ever comes back. I'd like to see them play together. That would be something that I'd be really interested in. Devin Bush, like Devin White, a super speedy linebacker, and I think he's going to make a big impact on the defense.
Yeah. With the 11 pick, the Bengals take Jonah Williams, offensive tackle, Alabama. I just think it was a need, and they thought Jonah Williams was the best offensive tackle. They obviously need to bolster that offensive line, keep Andy Dalton because it looks like that's who they're going to roll with upright, and gives Joe Mixon somebody to run behind. So, I mean, I like it.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad pick at all. The Hawkinson pick is kind of like a max pick, but I think they definitely filled the need. The offensive line isn't looking the best, but I think that pick definitely helps it a lot. So, good pick.
Yep. With the 12, Green Bay, they end up taking Rashawn Gary, defensive end from Michigan. You can go ahead on this one.
Well, I thought it was pretty good. The Packers have done a lot with their defensive offseason, so I like that they continued with that, staying aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. I was kind of surprised because I thought Matt LaFleur was going to jump either tight end or wide receiver in the first round. So I was really surprised to see that they drafted not only one, but 2 defensive players, and we'll get to the other one later. But I think Rashawn Gary is definitely going to be a really good pick for them.
Yeah, man. I love it. they're basically saying to Aaron Rodgers, "Hey, we know you can score the ball, and now we're going to help you on defense." Like they went primarily defense heavy in this draft. I think they only drafted like one or two offensive players. So yeah, I love it. I think Green Bay could potentially be a contender if they can keep Aaron Rodgers healthy, and that locker room can stay not toxic.
Yeah, I like what they did. Honestly, I think Matt LaFleur really just kind of evaluated the roster, and he said, "I like what we have. They have a really good nucleus in terms of offensive talent. So I like the fact that they didn't necessarily go for that offense in the first round, even though that's what I was expecting them to do. So I really like the strategy in bolstering the defense for Aaron Rodgers
I could
to exception.
I couldn't agree more. The 13th overall pick, the Miami Dolphins select Christian Wilkinson, defense tackle from Clemson. I love it because they need somebody on defense, and you have to think that they already were considering trading for Rosen. That's why they didn't go quarterback here. A lot of people think Christian Wilkins is going to be a really good defensive tackle. He was rising up boards all the way up to the draft. So yeah, I mean, I like it. What about you?
Yes, they definitely got a good player here. Not a whole lot to say about it other than the fact that they got a really aggressive pass rusher and someone who I think could be, honestly, a career Dolphin guy, like someone who just stays there the entire career. I think he can be the face of that defensive line for many years to come.
I agree. With the 14th pick, the Atlanta Falcons take Chris Lindstrom, offensive guard from Boston College. This pick didn't really make sense to me. I felt like there were a lot better offensive linemen available, but I guess it was just a case of the guy that they really wanted, they went ahead and got. So I don't really know a whole lot about him, but I just think there were better players such as Garrett Bradbury, and most of the tackles were still there. I know Andre Dillard, and yeah, there were people definitely still available. So I don't get it.
Yeah, I hate the pick. As much as my friend who I was watching the draft with, who's from Massachusetts, is going to hate me for saying this. I thought this was a huge reach. Before the draft, Chris Lindstrom was mocked to barely get into the first round. He was supposed to be around that 29, 30, 31 type of area. So for them to take it at 14, that's ridiculous. And honestly, to continue on that, I think that the Falcons had one of the worst first rounds of all teams this year because they ended up later trading back into the first round to get another offensive tackle who they also reached for. So I like what they're trying to do in terms of get Matt Ryan a better offensive line and a younger offensive line at that. I just think they could have picked somebody better.
Yeah, again, I think they reached for both of the tackles or both of the offensive linemen that they took. I don't understand it. They seemed flustered, if anything, like they weren't ready. But who knows? Yeah. 15. Washington gets Dwayne Haskins, quarterback. Their quarterback of the future. I know it's who they wanted. Rumors were all drafted they were going to trade up for him, and then he fell into their lap. And, I mean, I think Washington had a great draft because they got Haskins, and then they had another. Who did they? They traded for Montez Sweat later in the draft. So, yeah, I mean, I loved their first round. I thought they killed it.
I admire the Redskins enormously because they didn't, they got their guy, but they didn't have to do a lot for him. Like, they were patient. They sat on their hands. They trusted the process, and what do you know? Like, the quarterback they wanted the entire time fell to them at 15. So I really like the fact that they waited. I like the patience, and I like the pick.
Yeah, I honestly feel like if Haskins would have went, that they would have tried to trade for Rosen. I think they would have been big players in the Rosen pool if Haskins would have went like 6th overall to New York.
I mean, that would have been really interesting to see.
Yeah. With the 16th pick, the Carolina Panthers select Brian Burns. He's listed as an outside linebacker, but he's definitely going to play defensive end for Carolina. Me as a Carolina fan, I love the pick as long as he can keep the weight that he has currently on and develop. I mean, I definitely think he's going to have to develop behind Mario Addison, But I think he could be a good third down pass rusher and provide a lot of pressure as long as he can keep the weight on and stay NFL size. Because I know that was a big reason that he was dropping down boards, is because people are concerned that he's not going to be able to keep the weight on and that he'll be too tiny and get overpowered. But I honestly love the pick. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot to say. I was kind of bummed that you guys didn't take an offensive line, but I think going defense was a good move. I mean, and Brian Burns is a good, solid pick, like you said, as long as he can keep the weight on. So I'm excited to see what the future holds in terms of Brian Burns and his development.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was bummed that we didn't go offensive lineman, but then we made up for it later in the draft, I think, by getting two pretty solid offensive linemen. So, um, yeah, with the 17th pick, the Giants select Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle from Clemson. I'll let you go ahead on this one.
I think this was another reach. Dexter Lawrence was another back of the first round kind of guy, and they took him at 17. I think they could have definitely taken, honestly, anybody else. I thought Andre Dillard would have been a good pick here, Garrett Bradbury, but who am I to judge? I just thought that they definitely could have taken someone else. Dexter Lawrence was a great player, but I think they kind of reached on this one.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I agree. I think it was a big reach. I think there were a lot better players. Like, I would have taken Mo Sweat over him, just because I know people were worried about his like heart condition, but then it turned out that that's not even a real thing. So overall, I really like it, but I mean, I don't like it. Like, I think it was a reach, but who knows? New York's very confusing at the moment.
Don't you hate when that happens, though?
Yeah.
When your career-altering disease isn't a real disease?
I do. Like, whoever leaked that, first of all, you're a terrible person, because he was predicted to go in like the top 15 and he fell all the way to 26. I mean, shout out to Washington because they got a great player, but with 18, the Vikings select Garrett Bradbury. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I think they're going to play him at guard. They need to protect Kirk Cousins after they paid him all that money. But I would have probably gone defense maybe, or Andre Dillard. But I guess they needed a guard.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I was on defense here. I like the fact they went offensive lineman. I just think they could have picked a better one. I thought Andre Dillard was, well, at least in my personal board, Andre Dillard was rated higher than Garrett Bradbury. Although Garrett Bradbury impressed me a ton at the NFL Combine a few months ago, but I can't complain about the pick if I'm a Vikings fan. I like the fact that they went offensive line, so I can't complain.
At 19, the Tennessee Titans went defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons from Mississippi State. You can go first.
Well, okay, I'll start by saying that the NFL handled this in the absolute worst way ever. I don't think that his character needed to be questioned that hard. I think they definitely could have. I mean, wrong. Team should have taken a look at it, but I don't think we needed a 10-minute spiel on draft night delaying the entire draft because this guy wanted to get involved in an altercation a few years ago. I think if the team trusts him, he's fine. But I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the way they handled that, but Jeffrey Simmons, a solid player. Apparently he's getting his act together. Not really who I expected to get the Titans to pick, but again, I don't know who I expected the Titans to pick, so
yeah,
I can't really do much of input on that.
All I'm gonna say is that he made a mistake when he was in high school, and by all accounts, he's been a perfect citizen, so to speak, through college. And a lot of people think that if he wouldn't have had those character issues that happened in high school, that he would have been a top 15 pick. So, I mean, it could turn out to be a steal for the Titans. But I probably would have went wide receiver or tight end, maybe. I don't think their defense needed that much help. But I guess they probably went best player available, or who they thought was the best player available. So I guess we can move on. The Denver Broncos select tight end Noah Fant from Iowa. He's an athletic pass catcher. It's basically all I have. They're trying to give Flacco some weapons now. Drew Lock. Who knows who's going to start for them? But yeah, man, you can go.
Yeah, I like the pick a lot. Honestly, I like the fact that through the first 2 or 3 rounds, Denver went heavy on offense, and I like that strategy. Just trying to, because they know what their strong suit is, and that's their defense. They needed to make sure their offense is at least presentable when the season starts. So I like the fact that they went all offense for their first 3 picks. I think Font is going to be a great fit. I think no matter who's throwing on the ball, whether it's Drew Lock or Joe Flacco, I think he's going to make that quarterback very successful and probably going to be one of the biggest targets on the field for them. So I like to pick a lot.
Yeah, with 21, Green Bay goes safety Darnell Savage. Is it Darnell or? Yeah, Darnell Savage Jr. from Maryland. Again, like we said earlier, it looks like they're just bolstering the defense. They're saying, all right, Aaron Rodgers, you score. We'll focus on this side of the ball. I love it. I think it's a good pick. I also think that they could have gone Jonathan Abram, another safety, but Savage is good. The only complaint they had was that he's not the fastest, but he seems to make up with it with his physicality, so I like it.
Yeah, he is a physical monster. I watched a little bit of his highlights, and he is just a beast on the field. He hits super hard. Like you said, I think Abram would have been a solid pick here, but I think they went for the guy that, fits their scheme a little bit better. So I like the pick.
At 22, Philadelphia trades up and selects Andre Dillard, offensive tackle from Washington State. This makes sense. You got to protect Wentz. And a lot of rumors I heard that the Texans were actually going to take Dillard at 23. That is why Philadelphia moved up and took him at 22.
That makes a lot of sense because I absolutely hate the Houston pick, but we'll get to that next. I really like the pick because Jason Peters isn't going to last forever. And I think sitting behind Jason Peters for year 1, I think Andre Dillard is going to be really special coming out year 2. I don't know if he'll play. I don't know if they plan on moving him to guard, but as of right now, he's slated behind Jason Peters on the depth chart. But I like it a lot.
So at 23, the pick Ryan hates. The Houston Texans select Titus Howard from Alabama State. Like I said earlier, I think they panicked because they were going to take Andre Dillard and then Philly traded. So they just tried to take the best tackle available, but he's not the best tackle available, so that made no sense to me.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. What you said just made me really laugh. It's like they tried so hard to take the best tackle available, and they didn't even take the best. I don't even think they took a top 3 tackle available. I honestly hadn't heard of Titus Howard until they drafted him.
Me neither. Not once.
Yeah, so I was really confused by the pick. I think this guy right here, I may end up eating my words, but I think this guy right here is easily the biggest label of first-round bust in this draft class. I don't think he's going to perform well at all. So that's my hot take of the draft, I guess.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I don't think he's going to be good. I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll shock us and be the first player from Alabama State to be an all-pro or something, but who knows?
I'll hold my breath.
With 24, the Raiders select Josh Jacobs, running back from Alabama. This just makes sense to me. Marshawn Lynch retires. All you have on your roster is Isaiah Correll and Jalen Richard. Josh Jacobs barely ran the ball at Alabama, so he's fresh. And I think he has potential to be Offensive Rookie of the Year if this team can get their shit together. And could even maybe go like 7-9, 6-10. I think he could be a beast.
Yeah, have we dubbed Alabama as RBU yet? Because if not, they just need to be. They've so many NFL caliber running backs, and I think the Josh Jacobs pick is absolutely perfect for the Raiders for all the reasons that you said, because of Marshawn Lynch's retirement. And they really need a young guy up there because Isaiah Correll's a solid running back, but he's old. He's had some injury troubles. I think Jacobs is going to be fresh. I really like the pick. I think he's going to be a really good fit in Oakland.
And then at 25, the Baltimore Ravens go Marquise Hollywood Brown from Oklahoma, wide receiver, cousin of Antonio Brown. What are your thoughts, man?
I definitely did not expect him to be the first wide receiver off the board. I don't really, not a huge fan of Marquise Brown. I think he's more of a gadget player. I think we talked about this earlier, not on the podcast, but outside. But I just think, obviously, he's super fast, but I don't know how his development's going to be in terms of being that number one or number two guy. Because honestly, the Ravens receiving core is looking pretty thin right now. So he might step into a starting role almost immediately. So I don't know how he's going to handle that.
Here's what I think. I think he's either Santonio Holmes or Tavon Austin. So he's either going to be a beast or he's going to catch like one 90-yard touchdown a season and be a bust. Also, can Lamar Jackson even get him the ball? I guess we'll see. Also, can he stay healthy? Because he's super tiny. He's like 160-something pounds.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan, but we'll have to see.
At 26, the Washington Redskins select Montez Sweat. We kind of talked about this earlier. They traded back up to get him. I love the pick. I think they killed the first round, and I think he has potential to be an athletic freak and could dominate, or he could be a bust, but I would lean more towards dominate. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited to see him actually get on the field. I don't really know where he'd fit because, I mean, they have two solid defensive ends, and they've got some pretty solid linebackers, so I don't know where they're trying to fit him schematically, but wherever they do, I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just saw him sitting there on the board and thought, hey, we could trade up and get him, and maybe they don't have to pay Ryan Kerrigan whenever his contract's up, if he could slide into that role. But I guess we'll see. At 27, the Raiders select Jonathan Abrams, safety from Mississippi State. This is honestly... well, I won't say that. I really like the Josh Jacobs pick, but I think Jonathan Abram is also a very good addition to this Raiders team. Yeah, I mean, he seems like a ball hawk, and he's a little bit taller than most safeties. I believe he's 6'2". I could be wrong on that, but I think he's 6'2". What do you think?
Yeah, I like the pick a lot. Like we said earlier, we thought that he could have gone 21 to the Packers, but he ended up falling to 27. I thought the Oakland Raiders got a great player, and their defense is actually looking pretty nice, and I think Abrams is going to be a nice fit there.
Yeah, so at 28, the Los Angeles Chargers select Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle from Notre Dame. What do you think, Rand?
Definitely not who I expected them to take, but not a bad pick in the league. I like Tillery a lot. I think he's going to be a really good fit on their defense, and honestly, he's probably going to free up a lot of space for guys like Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. So I thought.
Here's the thing. I thought he was more of a high second-round player, but if they think he's their guy, good for them. They got him. I was looking for Greedy Williams or DeAndre Baker, who we'll talk about in a minute, to go here. But, hey, man, if it's their guy, like you said, maybe he'll free up Bosa, and they can get in that backfield. At 29, the Seahawks take L.J. Collier, defensive end from TCU.
This was a terrible pick. Sorry, I'm just going to jump in on this one.
No, you're good.
This guy was like a late second rounder at that. Like, this guy was not, I don't think he's going to be that good. I may be wrong. I definitely don't think he's the next Frank Clark, but you can obviously see where the Seattle Seahawks have their mindset on, trying to basically fill Frank Clark's hole that he left when they traded him about a week ago to the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't think they're going to get the same level of production at all. I think what ended up happening is too many defensive players got taken in the first round, and they were left rummaging for scraps, and that's exactly what they got with L.J. Collier. I don't like the pick.
Well, here's the thing. I wouldn't have even gone defense if I'm them. I would have went offensive line and tried to protect the man that you just paid a boatload of money. And there were still really good offensive linemen on the board. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand the pick at all. I mean, like you said, I think they were just trying to fill Frank Clark's role, but I think it's a mistake. I think he's potential to be another first round bust.
Oh yeah, easily. And I don't know why, but the Seahawks refuse to take offensive linemen in the first round. I think the last time they did was that guy Jermaine Ifedi. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
He didn't work out too. You just got to keep trying, honestly.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, you got to protect Russell, man. Like like you said, that's their guy.
Yeah, if you're gonna pay him that much money, protect him. So the Giants traded back into the first round for their third first round draft pick. With the number 30th overall pick, they select DeAndre Baker, cornerback from Georgia. My thoughts are, I don't think they got the best corner available. Yes, he's good, and I'm surprised he was the first corner taken. But a lot of people think he's slow, and he could easily get burnt by some of the wide receivers in this league. So I probably would have went Greedy Williams or Byron Murphy. But if that's their guy, clearly it was, they wouldn't have traded back into the first round.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking Greedy with this pick, but like we said, we got DeAndre Baker. I think he's a pretty solid player, but I heard a lot of concerns surrounding his character and whether he'd be a good fit in that large New York market, you know? That's a big city, big expectations, and they're just a lot of people I've heard and a lot of people I've talked to don't think he can fill those expectations.
All right, well, we can make pick 31 pretty easily because we've already talked about him. Caleb McGarry, offensive tackle from Washington. The Atlanta Falcons selected him. Again, we both think they reached for both of the offensive tackles they've taken. Also, might be the first time two offensive linemen have gone to the same team in the first round. Because I can't remember a time when that's ever happened, but
yeah, I didn't like this pick at all, but I didn't like the Falcons almost the entire draft. Like, they just did not have a good draft in my eyes. But, I mean, I definitely think Lindstrom and maybe McGarry will be good players, but I don't think that's who they should have taken with those picks. I think they could have traded around and got them appropriately.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then with the 32nd pick, the final pick of the first round, the New England Patriots select N'Keal Harry, wide receiver, Arizona State. A lot of rumors with they were looking to trade out of this pick, and when no one wanted to trade with them, they took their guy. I like it personally because he's a big red zone threat. He's basically going to take the role of Gronk. He does have to work on his route running and just timing because that was the big critiques on him coming out. But other than that, I like it for them.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect them to go wide receiver with this pick, but I like the pick. I like N'Keal Harry. I thought he was a really good wide receiver coming out of Arizona State. And their wide receiver room is looking pretty dangerous right now, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, man, I really like it. So that wraps up our first round recap. Ryan, do you have any hot takes after the draft?
Well, I just wanted to say that I was super surprised that players like Rocky Sin, Greedy Williams, and Jawan Taylor all fell to the second round, but I think the Jags who took Taylor, the Colts who took Rocky Sin, and the Browns who got Greedy Williams are all going to get fantastic value from their second-round picks. Also, not to mention A.J. Brown, who got drafted by the Tennessee Titans. And I was surprised DK fell that low, man. He got picked with the last pick in the second round to the Seahawks, possibly filling the void of a soon-to-retire Doug Baldwin.
Well,
I don't know how that's going to work.
Here's the thing about DK. Apparently, he interviewed very poorly at the Combine. Like, his physical stats were great, but his interviews were not.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but he's yeah. I also saw that he roasted Stephen A. this morning, so that made me happy.
Yeah, I saw that too. So last thing I guess before we wrap up the show, which team do you think did the worst, and which team do you think did the best through the draft?
Hmm. Uh, Worst, I'd probably lean towards the Falcons. I didn't like their reaching in the first round for both of their offensive linemen. They didn't really impress me with any picks later on. In terms of the best, there were a lot of teams who had sneaky good drafts, like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like we talked about earlier, letting Josh Allen follow them in the first, and and snagging Jawan Taylor in the second. Buffalo had a great draft, but I'm not gonna ride the hometown fan bandwagon yet.
So that was actually mine. Is I had Buffalo as like one of my top teams that had one of the best drafts. And my worst, I also had the Atlanta Falcons. I think they did a terrible job.
I also think the Seahawks had a really bad draft.
Yeah, I think they reached for a lot of people. DK could either be a beast or he could be terrible. So, he could be the next Brashad Perriman or whatever his name is for Baltimore, or he could be Des Bryant. Who knows?
I did like the fact that they snagged Gary Jennings in the fourth, but I mean the Seahawks, other than the Falcons, the Seahawks had some pretty solid day 2 and 3 picks. But I hated both the Falcons and the Seahawks first round picks.
All right, man. You got anything else for this episode?
Yeah, for all you weenies, I'm just kidding. I really appreciate the support in terms of the roster. Just bear with me. I'm working on the 4th round right now, and I hope to get you guys everything done by the end of next week in terms of all 7 rounds of undrafted free agents. Come back and keep listening to Hold the Phone. We do stuff every single week. So, and again, if you're new, thanks for coming.
Yeah, shout out to my guy Ryan. He's been out here grinding on this PS4 roster for you Madden heads that keep driving him crazy, but he loves you. All right, y'all have a good rest of your week. I know Ryan's going to see Endgame in about an hour and a half, so I know he's gonna have a good night. All right, see y'all.
Okay.